If it's been months since your last period, this isn't random. Your period doesn't just disappear for no reason. Your period stopped because your body doesn't feel safe to reproduce. It almost always comes down to safety. Your body is incredibly intelligent. If it senses that something is off, it will delay or shut off your period. I know this intimately because I lost my period for 5 years. That is 5 years of doctor telling me that's fine, you don't need to worry about it unless you want to get pregnant. 5 years of thinking that there is something fundamentally wrong with me. But I got my period back and I helped hundreds of women do the same. Today, I am going to talk you through exactly where you need to start if your period has been missing for months. Before we dive into the lifestyle factors, we need to get a clear picture of what is happening in your body. We start by getting biomarkers tested: sex hormones, thyroid hormones, and nutrient levels. This testing will help us identify or rule out any potential hormonal imbalances, thyroid issues, or nutrient deficiencies, and it will give us a starting point on what exactly we need to work on. We also want to rule out PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, because that can contribute to irregular periods. A diagnosis of PCOS comes down to 3 criteria. Checking your androgen levels. These are your male hormones like testosterone and DHEA, which can be done through blood work. Looking for signs of excess androgens, such as body hair growth, acne, or male pattern hair loss, and checking your history of irregular periods or long cycles. Because if you do have PCOS, whether that has been diagnosed or you suspect that you have PCOS, then the approach is going to be slightly different to what I'm going to be talking about. Once you have your results from your lab testing, then work with somebody that understands female hormones, a functional medicine doctor, a naturopath, or a hormone health coach, so that they know how to interpret them correctly. I'm not going to get into blood work, but when you get your results back from the GP, once it's within the ranges, you're going to be sent home and be told that everything is fine and clear. But the thing is, there is a difference between something being optimal and just meeting the markers. Besides, most lab work is based on sick population and outdated data. So you need to find a specialist that can read lab work properly. This is exactly what I do with my clients. We start with testing so we know what we're working with. Then we want to dive into lifestyle factors. And this is something that 90% of doctors are going to omit, because I don't know a single person that went into the doctor's office and their doctor asked them about sleep, stress levels, and how their eating pattern is looking like. But this is so important, and this is exactly what I'm talking about today. The first lifestyle factor is energy availability, and this is the most common reason why women lose their period. When your body senses that resources are scarce, so if you're under eating intentionally or not, it will shut off what's non-essential to preserve that energy. And what's non-essential? Reproduction. So it stops ovulation. No ovulation, no period. And the tricky part is that you may feel like you're eating loads, but in hindsight, it still might not be enough for the amount of activity that you're doing. I see this in my practice all the time. Women telling me, Martina, but I eat so much. I eat all day long. But when we look into the diet and keep a food log, I can see that they are often skipping breakfast or just having cereal for breakfast. They're often eating lunch on the go, which is a quick sandwich. And they aren't really eating that much. They're exercising fasted while also training 6 times per week, while working a stressful job and trying to look after their family. That is not enough food. You might be unintentionally or intentionally restricted. If you are skipping breakfast because you're not hungry or too busy, if you're doing intermittent fasting because you've read that it gives you better concentration in the morning, if you are following a specific diet like low carb or low fat, if you're trying to lose weight and don't realize that your calorie deficit is actually way too big. All of these things contribute to your body sensing that energy availability is low. And even if you are eating enough in terms of food quality, you still might be missing out on nutrients. B vitamins, magnesium, omega-3s, they're all essential building blocks for your body to produce hormones that support your reproductive health. The first thing that I want you to do is keep a food journal for 2 weeks. And this isn't about being obsessive about what you consume, but it's about getting a clear picture and building self-awareness. Track everything that you eat, but also your energy levels, satiety levels, and digestion every single day. You'll be able to notice patterns, and then you can work off actual data instead of basing it on predictions and memory. If you're really confused after analyzing your food diary recovery and you aren't entirely sure where you're going wrong, then this is where the help of a coach would come in. Once we have addressed energy availability, the next thing we will look at is your activity levels and recovery. At the end of the day, exercise is stress. Usually that acute stress is very beneficial for your body. It makes you stronger, it makes you fit, it makes you more adaptive. But too much of anything, even the good thing, can be harmful. And in a lot of cases, the problem isn't overtraining, it's lack of recovery. When you do high intensity exercise multiple times per week and you're not getting enough sleep and enough recovery, and you're not fueling that exercise adequately, you start running into problems. You go from that acute stress to chronically elevated stress. That cortisol that is released when you are stressed disrupts the communication from your brain to your ovaries. It stops sending signals that trigger ovulation and your period stops. It is difficult for me to tell you how much exercise is enough or too much for your body because everyone is so different, and that largely depends on the size of your stress bucket and what that stress bucket is filled with. Think of stress like your bucket. Every stressor in your life adds water to the bucket. Relationship stress, work stress, finances, undereating, poor sleep, intense training, all of it. Somebody with a stress-free job, no kids, no major responsibilities, sleeping 8 hours a night might have a lot of room in their stress bucket. They can push high-intensity exercise probably multiple times per week and handle a lot, especially if that is matched with proper sleep and nutrition. However, somebody in a busy season of their career with kids or elderly to look after, going through a major life transition, will have their stress bucket filled, if not overflowing. Piling high intensity exercise on top of that will leave them completely depleted and absolutely affect their reproductive hormones. Here are some signs to look out for to know that you are training too much. Well, menstrual cycle is going to be a big one. If that becomes irregular or stops completely, that is a big red flag. If your sleep gets worse, so you might be absolutely exhausted in the evening but struggling to fall asleep, you're waking up in the middle of the night, or you're waking up exhausted in the mornings. If you suddenly get ravenous and crave sugar and carbs all day long, then you're probably doing too much. Your digestive health is going to be a major player in this. If you're finding yourself constantly bloated or constipated, then it shows that exercise is creating a lot of stress, or you find yourself constantly sick, getting flus, infections, or feeling run down all the time. If you're experiencing one of these things I listed, then there's a high probability that you are doing too much. If you're experiencing multiple, then that is a really clear sign that we need to pull back on your exercise. And lastly, we look at what contributes to your overall stress, because even if you are eating enough and you're not over exercising, chronic stress can absolutely stop your periods. When we think of stress, we think of the obvious things: family conflict, financial concerns, work issues, relationship problems, but it is also the mental and emotional load that we carry. People pleasing, saying yes, but in reality you want to say no. Overthinking and ruminating constantly. Perfectionism and impossibly high standards. Never feel like you're doing enough. Constant comparison to others and carrying everyone's problems as well as yours. Where I want you to start with this is by jotting down absolutely everything that contributes to the stress in your life. The next thing is we're gonna look at your current ways of managing that stress. What do you actually do when you're stressed? The thing is, stress is inevitable. We aren't here to completely eliminate it, nor that is realistic or possible. Life is unpredictable. Life loves to throw curveballs at us all the time. So the goal isn't to be completely stress-free, calm, and zen, but it's about having tools to manage it, because if that stress isn't managed for a period of time, it becomes chronic. And chronic stress is the worst thing for us. It just perturbs everything, including your menstrual cycle. If your list of stressors is quite long, but the list of stress management tools is pretty much non-existent, now it's a time to really sit down and build out that toolbox. When we talk about stress management, I know a lot of people just think journaling, meditation, breath work, and while those modalities are incredible and I include them in my daily routine. That isn't only what stress management is about. It's also about creating boundaries. It's about cultivating a morning and evening routine. It is about being okay with disappointing people. It's about using your grounding practices to regulate your nervous system. It's about short-term stress management in moments of anxiety and overwhelm, but it is also about building long-term stress resilience so that you can handle stressful situations and conflict at much ease, that it doesn't impact the state of your nervous system to the degree that it's going to disturb your menstrual cycle as well as your digestion and everything else. The last thing I will say is that getting your period back takes time, so let go of the expectation that when you lean into recovery, it's going to take a few weeks, because you know, for some women, it might take a couple of weeks. For others, it might take a few months. And for some, it may take up to a year. And that really does depend how consistent you are with your recovery. For me, it has taken me so long because I know that part of it was wanting to get my period back, but on my own terms. So I was like one foot in recovery and healing and another foot in all the like disordered behaviors around food and exercise that I had, that I thought I had to maintain to sustain the dream body that I had built. So it's all person dependent, but getting your period back is absolutely possible. I know it from myself. I know it from working with hundreds of women, helping them get their period back on track. And by diving into these three things, so that is energy availability, are you actually getting enough food and enough nutrients? Looking at your exercise and recovery, are you doing too much? And are you fueling all that you're doing with the right amount of food and sleep? And lastly, your overall stress levels. Look at all of these and then rule out any potential hormonal imbalances, thyroid issues, or nutrient deficiencies. And this is going to be a brilliant place for you to start. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that it has given you some hope that you aren't broken and you can absolutely get your period back. It's absolutely possible. It's about creating safety in your body again. If you're new here, hi, my name's Martina. I create content around hormones, women's health, diet and lifestyle to help you understand and connect to your body better. If this resonates with you, hit the subscribe button as I share videos like these daily.